So welcome everyone to the 12-step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa and I am a student of the 12 Steps Method of Recovery. My focus fellowships are CODA, Al-Anon, and OA. I'm really glad you guys are all back tonight. We're going to have another fantastic opportunity to see and tackle our 4th steps. And pretty soon we'll be done with them, hopefully. So join me in the set-aside prayer with the willingness and the desire to have an open mind and open heart, with the gift of honesty, and as we tackle the 4th step, to release the source of our fear and anxiety. So God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my step 4, my resentments, so that I may have a new experience with my resentments, my fears, and especially with you. All right, so step 4, it probably seems like forever, but at least we're looking at a different part of step 4. And we saw in our resentment inventories that we needed to identify and analyze our resentments. And Bill said the root of the problem is self-centeredness, but we can't see the root because it's underground. We might say this isn't in the big book, but we can also say it is in the unconscious. So this process is the pen and paper process of all the steps. And it's going to take some time, and we'll need to be proactive on our own parts and frankly, quite fearless. And don't be concerned if we move on to another step and you haven't finished your 4th step. That's not unusual. It's very common for the 4th step with all its different facets to take longer than most of the other steps. And there's a lot, there's writing and thinking and praying and all kinds of good stuff. So don't feel like you're behind. If we move on to a new step, most people will still be doing the 4-step inventories. So we're making a fearless and moral inventory of ourselves as we examine our self-made fear sources. Moral is one of the terms Bill uses in the 4th step, and we may ask ourselves, what does that mean to us? What are our values? What are the principles that we have that motivate us day in and day out? We also looked deeply at that in the resentment inventory, and we saw that we needed to identify and analyze our resentments. Bill says that the root of the problem is our self-centeredness, but we don't see it yet because roots are normally buried, and those roots run very deep with resentment. While not a formal dictionary definition, the Big Book describes self-centeredness as a state of being driven by fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. Bill says this focus on the self leads individuals to step on the toes of their fellows, which causes others to retaliate. It leads to ongoing disturbances, frustrations, and a lot of unnecessary suffering. For the addictive personality, this pattern is so severe that Bill adamantly states, above everything, we alcoholics/addicts must be rid of our selfishness, he warns. We must, or it will kill us. This self-centeredness that most of us don't even know exists until we have a level of recognition comes after we've completed our 4th step. This process of looking at resentments will show us that the biggest fruit on our tree is our resentment. And the second biggest obstacle to overcome our fear and anxiety, followed by the inventory of our inappropriate, addiction-driven sexual behaviors, and finally, dishonesty, secrets, guilt, and shame. These are 4 extra categories that aren't in the Big Book, but experience has shown us that it is especially important in addition for rounding out and completing our 4 steps efficiently and effectively. So that's been a little bit of add-on. I know we've all seen this before, but I want to go over it again to provide a context of where we are going and where we've been. So this is the beginning diagram of the basic survival of self. We've looked at our fight instinct, and now we're going to look at our flight instinct. But notice first, these are our basic survival mechanisms. It is at this very basic level of being a human. It is survival of our very species, and this often gets translated into emotions of the fight instinct of anger and the flight instinct of fear to run away from danger. And lastly, our freeze instinct of hiding or camouflaging, which progresses into dishonesty. Then it translates into a manifestation of the emotions in the limbic system, which is anger held. That results in our resentments. All resentment is anger, which is felt in an initial stimuli, event, or from circumstances that we have held on to. We have never allowed it to be released or transcended at this point. We created it and we held on to that, mostly for reasons unknown, which doesn't really matter because we still hang on. Resentment doesn't create our anger, but it can absolutely fuel it. Fear and anxiety is the sense of horrible impending doom and the assumed inability to deal with reality in any sense in the moment. In this heightened moment of intensity, it is almost impossible to cope or act appropriately as your whole body goes into survival mode, releasing hormones like adrenaline that cause rapid increases in heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, all in order to pump more oxygen and energy to your muscles so that you can fight or flee. We are 100% convinced that the fear is real, and our entire system does not know otherwise. It cannot tell the difference. And then we add dishonesty, the hiding and camouflaging that most of us experience as shame. And we see it show up most frequently in our sexual behavior misconducts. We have deeply hidden our motives and our beliefs, even from ourselves. The whole point of this information is to unpack it so that we can determine all of the defects that get in our way, that keeps us in the shadows and the clouds up above our sunlight of the spirit in ourselves. So we need to identify these obstacles and then ask to have them be removed. In identifying the obstacles in myself, it's important that I realize that everyone is human, just like I am, and that we are all struggling. Each one of us is human, and not one of us has very many variations from the other. And Bill says in this fear inventory, the same thing he said in the resentment inventory. We make a list and we check it twice. On page 67, which 67 to 68 was the homework, Bill says, this short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. He's talking about fear. Notice Bill doesn't tell us what it means, nor does he tell us how to use it. Hopefully you have already taken a look at your fears from the third column work, and then in the fourth column, we see it again 2 times with questions 4 and 8. So essentially, you have the makings of the beginning of a fear list right there in your third and fourth columns. Look at the shirt or the clothing that you're wearing, or the curtains in the room, or anything made with threads near you. The different colors woven in and out to give it the context, the texture, and the color. That is what Bill is saying about fear. It is that woven into our being. That's how deep fear runs, which makes it a little bit harder sometimes to pull the fears out. We see them as normal behavior because that's how we've normally behaved. Bill says regarding our fear, our existence is shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not set the ball rolling? This is the turnaround that Bill is referring to from the fourth column in the resentment inventory. He says, sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. This reference clearly states to us that fear is a thief. It robs us of so much joy and peace in our lives. It brings us to our knees in terror and predicates what we can and cannot do around the feelings it creates. It is quite the appropriate connection, fear and stealing. Fear is the supreme thief. And I don't know if any of you guys have felt like that before you read this out of the big book, but the first time I read it, I thought, oh my God, that's so perfect. Fear is a thief. It steals the quality of our lives. It steals so much. So Bill didn't give any worksheet examples or worksheets at all. So we'll be using one that has been used by others, such as Herb. And I've taken some of Herb's and other people's and kind of combined them all together to make them as efficient as possible. And the big book says, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. This is a very separate exercise, even while Bill connected both the third and fourth column to fear. Bill was more interested in resentment and sexual behaviors gone awry because those were two of Bill's really big issues. Fear wasn't really a big worry for Bill. He just didn't really get into the fear part. So he doesn't put a whole lot of work out there for us to do. But the fear work is similar, but it is separate. In the third and fourth column exercises, the fear of not getting what we wanted or losing what we had was the beginning of eventually addressing our fears. So when making your list, say a set-aside prayer, go inside and be patient and just let it be there. We are looking for the feelings of fear, the feeling of wanting to flee, to run, or that feeling of being threatened. Hopefully you guys have made your fear list. It's okay if you haven't, though. So like I said, I spend a little more time on the fear inventory than perhaps others do. But I come from a long line of alcoholics, drug abusers, and the common denominator in most, if not all of these peoples was their excessive amount of fear and anxiety and how they were driven to cover it up with substances and behaviors. Anxiety and addiction sufferers who are experiencing symptoms of anxiety often turn to drugs or alcohol to either numb themselves, calm themselves down, or to help them relax or fall asleep. Self-medicating for anxiety is risky because it is only a temporary solution, as the anxiety returns when the drugs or alcohol wear off. In addiction, the brain's receptors adapt to the presence of drugs, alcohol, and process addictions. Then, over time, a calm state can only be reached by activating these receptors with our dominant addiction and more of it. Tolerance also develops, and the person will need increasing quantities of drugs, alcohol, and stimuli, such as internet surfing, to relieve symptoms of anxiety. A research study on anxiety and addiction found that up to 40% of people with alcohol addiction are also affected by a panic-related anxiety issue. More than 20% of people with an anxiety disorder abuse alcohol or drugs or both. Most of the study's participants with both an anxiety and alcohol abuse problem reported that their anxiety problems came long before their alcohol abuse did. So allow yourself to approach this list with an open mind, with no judgment. Don't be afraid. And when it comes up, write it down. Consider this opportunity as a gift from God, a gift from the Spirit, your higher power, your creator. See it as a gift to your higher self. Fear is where faith begins. It slowly takes over, and then the fear has no strength. So think about some of your fears. Do you fear aging? dying, being alone, being with others, being destitute. There is no right or wrong. If it is a fear, then write it down. You may discover fears that you didn't realize you have because you haven't had to put the full picture in front of yourself before. So, this is what is referred to as a fear train. And it gets its name because you're going to go down the list, follow the arrows, and each time you name your fear, you say, well, then what would happen if that happened? So let's do number 2. My fear is my husband will cheat on me. All right, and then what would happen? Well, I'll be alone. And then what would happen? Well, I'll probably be broke and homeless. And then what would happen? I'll have to live on the street and have to beg for food. Okay, and then what? My family will be ashamed and abandon me. And then where would that bring you? I'll want to die. And then what? I would take my own life. And lastly, then what? There won't be an afterlife. So my bottom fear, if we go all the way back to the top, my husband will cheat on me, is actually a fear of, I'm afraid I will cease to exist, which is a pretty big fear when it comes right down to it, the thought of not existing. So a lot of our fears show up as something we think that they are, but it turns out they're not actually that fear. And that's what the then what. So then what would happen? And then what would happen? You keep following all the way down till you get to the bottom, not necessarily all these spaces, but the bottom meaning that bottom fear where else can you go? Well, ceasing to exist for me is a bottom. There's nowhere else. You can't go up. I can't go down. That's the end of that fear train for me. And then you're going to do this with probably 10 of your top fears. You don't have to do much more than that, 10, 20 at the most. But you're going to want to do it in that order. You start with your fear, and then you bring it down through this fear train. This is only one way of doing the fears. We're going to do a couple of them. So then this is another way we can do it. If you used to have a fear of clowns, don't write it down. If it is not current, then it does not go on your list. Whatever your fear is, don't write it down if it's not current. If you used to fear driving on the freeway, but you've recently overcome it, if it is in the past tense, leave it in the past. Do not add it to your fears list. Only your current fears go on the list. And remember, please don't filter it. Be as genuine and honest as you can about your fears. Because if we can't get to the real fear, we're not going to get through the fear. Ask yourself, are you afraid of death? Or maybe just of dying? Or how about fear of failure? What is it that really frightens you? And allow it to flow. Once you start naming or writing them down, they'll start to flood in. Stay open to it and don't judge it. So this is the second worksheet that I sent you. And you can do this after you do the previous one. And I didn't put it on here, but that one was I will cease to exist. All right, so then I would ask myself, do I know where it came from or why I have it? My belief would be that I have it because I was invisible in my family as a child. Nobody could hear what went on. Nobody took care of things. So mine came from my family of origin. And then what behaviors does this fear create? Well, if I have an intense fear that I will cease to exist, I'm going to do a lot of things that I don't really want to do because I'm so afraid if I don't do them, I'm going to perish. So that's a behavior that the fear would create. It has such a hold on your life that sometimes you don't even realize you're doing things so that you don't have to deal with this one particular fear. And what is the opposite of the feeling of my fear? Well, my opposite feeling would be that I'm an eternal being and I have faith that once I leave here, there's something else. And what new behaviors would emerge with this opposite feeling? I would live a free life. I wouldn't worry about death. I wouldn't worry about what happens after I die. I would have a wonderful, joyful life. It would bring me peace. So that's how this second sheet works. You put your what is my fear? That's that bottom fear that I brought you guys down to, that bottom one. And you put it in there, where's my fear? And then you go across and you answer each question about that particular fear. And like I said, it's a bottom level fear. It's not, okay, I'm not sure what this fear is about. You're going to do that on the previous worksheet. This is when you get to the bottom and you find the really deep ones. And then, so the next column is, why do I have this fear? Do you know where it came from? If answer it in a few words, that's enough. It's not a paragraph. It's not a therapy session. It's not even going to be a cathartic moment, probably. Nor is it the time for a dumping of your feelings. If you have the desire to do a cleanse, grab a journal or use a separate notebook, which is a great developmental or psychological exercise, but it's not relevant to this assignment. Please be as succinct as you can be and as you were in your third and fourth columns. 5 or 6 words at the most. There are no rules. This isn't even in the big book, but this is what has worked. We don't want to get into stories. We don't want to get into deflecting, or we don't want to start going off track because we're thinking about something else. We want to stay very focused on this. So if you look at the second column in the resentment inventory, it suggests that you follow this the way that you did that when you do this, when you're looking at your column work. So we write it down, and like I said, you ask what comes next. You pause, you think about it, well, this was my husband will cheat on me. Well, we'll do the other one, all right? So think about it. I'm afraid I'll lose my job. That's my top answer. That's what I think my fear is. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Well, what would happen if I lost my job? Well, I won't be able to pay my rent. I won't be able to eat. I'll eventually become homeless, and I'll lose my belongings, my financial security. I won't be able to provide for myself. I'll be seen as a loser by people that I care about. I won't have any security or self-esteem, and I'm going to perish. And then that could certainly tie into the previous one, which I will cease to exist because I got to work these out first. So the big fear, the big kahuna is that I will perish. There will be nothing afterwards, and I'll cease to exist. There'll be nothing there. So we excavate these fears to find out what's lying dormant underneath them, because our big fears are covered up by the pile, that whole chain of events. Those are the small fears that we rifle through, and we get to the bottom big fear. And what you're going to see as this progresses is you don't have as many fears as you thought you did. Because if we look at this, it looks like I have 2 full lists of them, but I really only have 2 on that worksheet. So that's the good news. You're not going to have a ton. So I take the fear, and you can do it in meditation, or you can do it in contemplation, you can do it in writing, however you want to do it. And I stop and I think about why I would have a fear that has followed me through my life, that I'm going to cease to exist. And I do have an event that happened to me when I was a child. I was in Florida, and my parents left us young children on a beach, and we all got sunburned really bad. And, we were from Massachusetts. Snow was on the car, and we left the house, and then we were on Miami Beach 2 days later. So we all got severely burned, but I got the worst burn. And when I woke up the next morning and I passed out, I was so dehydrated and I was so burned. And I remember waking up in my father's arm. I was probably 8 or 10 years old. I thought I was dying, as a child. I thought, my God, I'm just going to die. And I remembered what I felt when I had passed out. I felt nothingness. I felt like I didn't exist. And that's where that fear started for me. I could actually take it all the way back to an event that happened to me as a child. So it's a traumatic experience, and I can identify it now. I couldn't for a long time, but I finally brought it to conclusion, and this whole process of cause and effect has eliminated the fear. I still don't lay on the beach without lotion on, but it's how we get down to that bottom. Because as a 10-year-old, I probably did feel like I was ceasing to exist, even though I was probably just dehydrated and had a severe sunburn. To me, it felt like the end of the world, but it wasn't. So that's that area of, yeah, the feelings are real, but the thoughts are not. I was not dying. I'm not perishing. I don't know what comes after I die. So none of that is real. It's just feelings. So it's a trauma experience, and it's identifiable now. You can do therapy, you can do personal work. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You might have events that trigger your fear. And even after the fact, it feels as real as the original moment when you had this traumatic thing happen. As you go through your life, you're still reliving it like it is that day that it happened. It's that intense. But the ability to name it and see its origin shows us the connection to the present in the way that the fear colors every similar event. If I felt like if I had a sinus thing and I felt a little dizzy, I would think I'm perishing again. I would go into this whole big thing, I'm going to perish. And nobody could figure it out because I couldn't remember as a child that first event caused it. So, when we feel those feelings, it puts us right back. It brought me right back to Florida many decades later in my mind. And the fear was just as real as it was that day, but it's still just fear. So these are the two worksheets for the inventory. And I did send them home last week. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at them. And as I said, these have evolved from other sheets I've used through, I do one-on-one, I do counseling. This is really come to a place where I feel like these are working really well to give us the understanding about what our fear or anxiety is causing in our lives. And it really gives us a place to start the process of eliminating the fear. Because until we can eliminate that fear, it's going to color our lives. Go ahead, Linda. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Just looking at the worksheets, I have the worksheet, sorry about that, 1 through 5. But the second worksheet in the pink pen, I don't see that worksheet.
You didn't get that one?
Mm-mm.
I will send it to you.
Okay.
I don't know why it wouldn't have sent out, but I can definitely send you another one. Are you up to this point yet? Are you ready to do your fears?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
It's
I'll
just
get.
fine.
Nope, I'm
Okay.
glad because I just want to make sure I get it out to you.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Thanks, Linda. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I haven't gotten either one of those sheets either.
Did you get anything from last week, Mark?
I received nothing last week. I didn't know there was an assignment.
All right. I'm going to check your email, make sure it did go out. I didn't get any emails back, but I do send it out as a group, so maybe it skips over them or something. But I'll check and make sure I've got your right email address. Thank you. Go ahead, Anita.
Okay, I just want to say that I did not get that second one either. So, but I got the fear trains and things. So,
Okay.
and
I'll resend it out to everybody just in case. I don't know, for some reason some people did or didn't get it. Not a big deal. I will just resend it. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
All right. So we go on to step 5 in this form, but we want some resolution. And so just like in the 4th column of the resentment inventory, where we use the turnaround after the truth had been revealed, I want to see what the virtue is and what the behavior could be if I didn't have that fear anymore, so that I can have that as my target, as my intention, my vision. These behaviors are my goals and the things that I want to implement into my life by my own effort and support with fear, with my prayer. So the opposite of the fear is a pretty important column with the behavioral fear, which is the 2 on the end, because we need to see what the opposite is so that we can accomplish it. And then when we start implementing that opposite into our lives, we start seeing the outcomes. For this particular one, peace, a lot of your fear is going to go away and peace is going to come in place of it, because that's the opposite of fear, is peace or faith. So if you're finding, that the answers are starting to sound similar or what have you, that's perfectly fine. That's what it should be. It's not going to be like you're going to have 1,000 choices, fear or all these choices. It's going to be fear or faith, fear or peace, fear or calm, something relatively opposite of fear in general. So back at page 68, Bill's second suggestion, which is to ask why we have our fears, Bill continues by saying, wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Well, Bill's very accurate and he's very smart, as we know. And I'm not smart enough or educated enough to maintain the existence that I desire, which is why we create the false self. That persona or mask that we have talked about, it was a prior presentation with the instincts gone awry. Like that Disneyland facade that we all have, that we are suffering with, because we are living a lie, both personally and in relationships, since people are not relating to the real me or you. They're relating to the facade. They're seeing Disneyland when we flash our eyes. It's a living fantasy world that we present as, quote, me. Self-reliance is great as far as it can be, but it doesn't get us as far as we really want to go. It's not going to do the job. We've begun to excavate through the 3rd and 4th column inventories. This column work is the wrecking ball that is coming to knock down the stone walls that we have fortressed around ourselves from the beginning in order to protect ourselves. This all started as a pretty good idea until it all went bad. We come to trust in an infinite source as opposed to our small, limited, finite selves. Take a moment and ask yourself, do I trust in my higher power more than I trust in myself? Do I actually trust myself? Do I feel satisfied with the version of my higher power, or do I need to take the first step again? One thing that I learned early on in the program was that difficulties don't go away. The thing that changes is our reactions and responses to them. But life is still going to happen, but it's not going to destroy us anymore. That's where the difference lies, in our attitudes. And we have fear because we don't have faith. And we have shortcomings and obstacles to overcome to release our fearfulness. Bill says we are in the world to play the role God assigns us. Put a question mark at the end of that sentence and make it, are we in the world to play the role God assigns? This is a really effective way to understand statements from the big book. You turn them into questions and then you delve into them as a statement. What is the role in this world for me that I have been missing? Whether you believe in God or not, a life force or not, whatever reality means to you, what is it? It's big questions. It's really big questions. What is your destiny? What is your value? Why were you born? There are no easy answers and there's no right or wrong. It's your answer and you must find it and then you have to own it. But it's got to come from you. So put a big question mark in the margin of your big book that you think about these questions as we travel towards the ninth step. Keep this in the back of your mind. When there's a statement you don't quite connect with, turn it into a question. It's very likely that you'll have the answer to these questions. What is my role in this world? And the answer is so very important. You're going to get that answer. And, you know, I'm sure, like myself, I'm in my 60s and I'm going, what is my role? I think I missed the boat on that. It's not what is my career. It's not what is my job. It's what is my role in society in my lifetime. It's much bigger than a job. So on page 68, Bill says, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity. So what is Bill saying here? What does he mean? If you want to be happy, you find out what your purpose is and you do it. That's my translation, a simple interpretation of our desire to be peaceful and to live in harmony and contentment. So once you figure out what your purpose is and you begin doing it, you'll be in alignment with your destiny. And it doesn't have to be big. It's not, I'm destined to climb Mount Rushmore. I'm never going to do that. But it's not that big. It could be just, my destiny is to be kind to everyone that comes in my presence. So I align myself with my creator and I seek reality in all my doings. And I humbly rely on my higher power because I have turned my life and my will over to my creator. Then the speed bumps of life are handled by our shock absorbers. It's a great comparison for us to have tools that allow us to navigate light and reality as it is, not how we see it, not how we think it should be, but how it just really is. It just is. Very simple. Bill says, we never apologize to anyone for depending upon our creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality is the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. You probably remember how we looked at step 2 and on page 53 where it says God is or God isn't, what is your choice? And the next line was, we are now confronted with the question of faith. And I spent some time with you excavating that in a dynamic that I hope stuck with you. It definitely gave me a jolt regarding the whole concept and decision, but it also got me to the conclusion that I had been evading for decades. There is no concrete answer to this question, no feelings, no emotions, just the decision to claim it or not. And I bring this up here to remind you as we get further from the first 3 steps, sometimes we also get further from our choice decision that we had made. We slip back into indecision and the lack of faith that brings. When I find this happening, I go back to those 3 beginning steps and remind myself what I had already learned. My ego wants me to forget, so I have to stay on top of that guy. Nothing happens until I act as if it is true, and my body cooperates behaviorally in a trusting way. Faith is my decision, belief is my acceptance, and trust is my action. I have a dynamic that answers all of my questions every day as I act as if, no matter what I see or think or what I feel or experience. I fall back on that decision that I made as to whether there is a God or not. It's so important to keep that in mind and bring it with you through all of these steps. And like I said, if you feel like it's not feeling like it did when you first had that aha moment of, okay, God is or God isn't, go back and revisit it. It'll always be there. Because we're human. We forget. We get caught up in other things, and we got to get back on track. So this way of changing our minds takes courage. And that's why Bill says on page 68, faith requires courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. We ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be. We ask him to remove our fear through prayer, as any time we are talking to God is the same as praying. Because it is about the intention, not the words. I have a fear and I can name it. I can analyze it to its exact nature and I am able to understand it. I can even accept it and I can talk about it with someone. And all of those ways of coping might diminish it somewhat, but for the deep ones, like the deep resentments, it won't be enough. We are as powerless over our fears and resentments as we are over our addictions. So we ask God to remove our deep fears and we direct our attention to what God would have us be, which is the opposite of what our fear is. That's what God wants us to be, not the fear, but what the opposite is. To create the opposite of what our fear is in that worksheet, number 1, I list the fear. Number 2, I list why I have it. But in the third column, which is not coming out of the big book, is what behavior comes out of that fear. And then the next line, the fourth column, number 4, is what would be the virtue, that courage, that would be the opposite of that fear. And fifth column, number 5, is what would be the behavior that comes from having that virtue. So even if you don't have it yet, you can envision it and have the intention of having the virtue as a replacement for the fear and having that behavior instead of the behavior that comes from your fear. Because fear is not real. So even if you feel like you're faking it, fake it till you make it. It's a great old saying in the program. And Bill finally says at the end, a promise. This is the promise of the fear inventory. At once we commence to outgrow fear. It doesn't say that once the fear goes away because it doesn't work that way. He says we commence, which means the beginning of the outgrowing of the fears. This is the fear inventory as I have comprehended it and used it and understand it. And it has worked incredibly for me. So let's go over it again real quick. We make a list and we start by asking, why do I have it and do I know where it came from? And Bill says the reason that we have it is a lack of trust, a lack of faith. It is really that simple to state, but not so easy to achieve. Faith can be daunting when we are holding on to control for dear life. We do not want to let go. We're just not sure. And then we have our worksheet, and it says, name the fear, and do I know where it came from? What behavior is manifest from this fear? The strength, the opposite. In the last column, what behavior would come out of this so that we can have a vision of what it might look like if I didn't have this fear? In terms of shaping it, please do approach the fear inventory with the suggestions that I'm giving you in the order that I'm giving them to you. Make the list. You might want to sit more with it more than one time, not to make it perfect, but in order to allow it to flow out of you, to be what it is on paper. Then pick out half a dozen or a dozen that are the major ones that have robbed you of the quality of your life, that have diminished your joy, your capacity to experience joy. Knock them out of the park. And make sure the fear is relevant to you. It would be something that diminishes the quality of your life through a fearful behavior. We're not really looking for fears of things like spiders. It is more like, I am afraid of commitment, afraid of crowds, fear of failure. The types of fears that are seriously interfering with the quality of your life. I've talked to you guys a bit about some of my debilitating fears. In a recent fear inventory, I had one very important fear that I needed to exercise. I had tried every therapy, every method, medication, exposure for over 3 decades. I eventually gave up on overcoming it because I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal. My fear was that I was afraid to fly, and I hadn't flown in 40 years commercially. So I got a call last year from my youngest daughter who lives in England, and she was telling me she was expecting her first baby. And of course, she wanted me to be there with her when she gave birth. And my heart was pounding like I had been given a shot of adrenaline. You know, how am I going to get on a plane? My heart just dropped to the ground. And I told her I would do my best in trying to get there. And of course, she didn't expect anything because everyone knows I wouldn't fly anywhere. But I was working on some of these columns and I decided to do what Bill suggests. And I started acting as if I was going to England. So I made a list of all the things I needed to do and the steps I'd need to take in order to accomplish this totally insurmountable feat. So the first thing I did was I went and got my passport. Well, I'd never had a passport before, but you can't fly without a passport. So that was my first step. I wasn't at the end point yet. I wasn't getting on the plane. I was just getting my passport. And that was fine. And then I had the money for the tickets. So I bought the tickets. But it didn't feel like anything was changing. I guess because I didn't really feel like I was committing to go. Just having a ticket and a passport doesn't mean you have to get on the plane. And I was still immobilized by my fear that it just, I couldn't move it. And, I was like, well, everybody's afraid of flying. That was my scapegoat. But everything that I prayed about, every step that was coming up, fell into place almost magically, one step at a time. Even when she went into premature labor, of course, and I wasn't able to get there fast enough, I still kept moving forward. There were no obstacles because God kept making the path clear. And I knew if God was making the path clear, I was going to take the next step. And I was trying to not solve it from my finite level of experience and trust my creator, trust myself, trust the process, the whole shebang. And the morning that I was scheduled to leave to go to England, I got up and there was no fear, absolutely no fear. Everything was done. Everything was packed. I did it one step at a time. I gave it over each time to my higher power when a little bit of that fear came up. And I knew faith was my answer. Faith got me on the plane. It got me all the way to England. I drove a car on the wrong side of the street from London to Wales, which was about 4 hours by myself because I was in God's hands. I completely put it in God's hands. It was the most amazing experience of my life. And I kept saying to my daughter, I can't believe I'm in England. I just can't even believe it. And she was like, I can't believe you flew. But truly by the grace of God, I got there. And this is a picture of my airplane over Iceland. I had to have proof. So the moral of the story is the fear was never real, but I could not get around it. I tried so many times and it just didn't work until I gave it to my higher power. Now, that didn't mean I sat there and God showed up and brought me to the plane. I had to do all that footwork that brought me all the way up to that moment that I got in that plane and I heard that door shut and that plane took off. I had to do all of that, but I did it with the grace of God. And I did it without fear. I never had a moment of fear the entire time I was there. Even when a few times I was driving on the wrong side of the street because I forgot what country I was in and almost had head-on collisions, I still wasn't fearful. It was a great experience. So you can use meditation to help you get to your gut fears. Again, this isn't theoretical or memories of fears. It isn't logical. It's not about thoughts such as, I should be afraid. I should be afraid of the plane crashing, but I'm not. Unless, of course, that is interfering with your life. Then it is real because you can't or don't get on airplanes. So we're looking for substantial fears like never finding a true soulmate, your fear of failure, your fear of asking for a promotion when you've deserved it for a decade. Or some people are afraid they'll be successful and not know how to handle it. So just your feelings, and just do the worksheet once you have identified a minimum of 10, maximum 20 substantial fears. And I did send a list of fears home that you guys can look at if you need something to spark your ideas. But don't just take a fear and work with it. Really dig down deep and find that fear within yourself. And we tend to slip into the questions of why is it like that, or what will happen, or why have I always had the wrong questions, or all these unhelpful things that we do inside our heads, the analyzing things to death and avoiding the exercise altogether. There's a time and a place to go to your thinking self. But we're talking about feelings now, and thoughts and logic can block the hidden feelings deep in our gut. I mean, logically, it's bizarre that we can fly up in the air. But if I let that logic make my choices, I would never have taken the trip. So think about what fear comes up when you walk down into that cavern of darkness. As you walk deeper and work your way to the bottom, what is the source of your fear? What is all the way down to that foundation, to the earth's crust? And when you hit a concrete wall where you feel like you stop and you can't go on, there's no more next fear, or you find that you're just spinning in circles, stop and go on to the next one. You might have come to an answer like, oh, I see where this one's going, and go on to the next one. But don't do this. Keep staying with it. You want to follow it all the way down, all the way to the bottom. And really, don't do more than 20. It's the substantial ones that matter. And the average number is really around 10. 10 is plenty. Don't make this bigger and harder than it has to be. So that is the end of my presentation. I have both of the worksheets up so that if anybody has a question, they can raise their hand and I can try to answer them for you. Or if anybody has something they want to share, like last week we had a couple people said that they were going to share. Go ahead, Rita.
Just a question. In your experience, because I'm finding on my resentments as I'm going through them, I'm starting to see like a pattern with things, which is about like how I last week when we went through my sister-in-law, I've got some other family stuff very similar. Did some with my husband and stuff, and very they like fall into like two buckets pretty much. Do you see that with the fears too, that they fall into like some pretty big buckets?
They can. It's a little bit different than the resentments.
Okay.
The resentments, the commonality in the resentments is you or me, whoever is doing it. So because the commonality is you, there's the old saying of how we do one thing is how we do everything. So that kind of plays out in your resentments. You're going to feel like you're being treated a particular way, and that's why you have the resentment, because you have the particular way in your head already. It's not about the person you're having the resentment towards. So that does definitely follow a pattern, and at some point, which is why I tell people, don't do 100. You're going to know after 10 or 12 what's really going on. And when you grasp that you're at the center of your resentments, that's when you don't have to do resentment worksheets really much anymore. You're going to do step 10s on a daily basis.
Okay.
These are resentments that have built up for a long time. Now, when it comes to the fear work, I feel like I see the fears being more all over the place than the resentments, because we have traumatic events that happen in our lives that can affect people totally different. There were 6 kids in my family. We're all 6 very different people, and we had the same trauma. It's just how people handle things. So you're probably going to see that you might have commonalities in your fear, but they're going to end up, like if you have a bunch of fears that are common and you bring them down the list, they're going to end up at one fear anyways. So if you find after you've done a bunch of fears and they're all ending in the same place, that's going to be your bottom fear. And most people only have a couple of bottom fears. They don't have hundreds of fears like that sheet that I sent home. That's 3 columns of fears. They all can be boiled down to 1 or 2 or maybe 3 fears in the world.
Okay.
So it is different, but it is the same. The
Yeah, that makes sense.
excavation is similar. The outcome is a little different.
Okay, very good. Thank
sense?
you.
Does that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
Hi, Carol. You were going to share, right? Oh, you were going to read
I wanted to do my column 3 and column 4.
Okay.
Okay. When I resented Ariel, she's my twin sister, for not sharing the inheritance of my younger sister when she passed away. When this happened, how did it hurt, threaten, or interfere with my self-esteem? I am a caring, helpful sister. And my fear is people will not acknowledge that I was the helpful sister because my sister was the sole heir. Others should see Ariel acknowledging that I share in the inheritance because I was a good, helpful sister. Ariel announces that I was really the one who deserves all of the inheritance because I was the one that helped her the most. And my fear is Ariel will never share the inheritance or give me the credit that I deserve. And my ambition, I want to share the inheritance with my sister, and I need this for acknowledgement that I was a good sister and a good person for my family and friends. And my fear is no one will know how much I helped my younger sister. And 4 is my security. I need Ariel to stop being delusional and greedy and share the inheritance and tell everyone that I was really the one who helped my younger sister. And my fear is that she will always be delusional and not share the inheritance or the credit. Personal relationships, I expect sisters to be supportive, loving, respectful to each other. My fear is my sister is a narcissist and I will never have a loving relationship with her. Gender relations, all men and women should be supportive and helpful. And my fear is men and women will never be supportive or helpful. And pocketbook, this event impacted my finances, my emotional security, my well-being, and my spiritual relationship. Why did it all turn out this way?
Okay. And you did your both too?
Yeah, I did my, yeah. Okay. When I resented Ariel for not sharing in my younger sister's inheritance, I felt like I was an undervalued and betrayed sister. And where was I self-seeking? I spoke very badly about her to everyone in the family and to everyone and anyone that I could talk to about this. I shut down emotionally with her and I undervalued myself. self-centered thinking. I deserve a better sister. She's greedy. I had thoughts of revenge. She's a narcissist. She's delusional. And I undervalued myself. Where was I dishonest or delusional? I am dishonest because I freeze. I did not confront her and stand up for myself. I was passive. I didn't sue her. And I believe that if I had sued her, I would have won. Afraid, fear, I am afraid she will never share the inheritance. She and everyone will never acknowledge that I was the helpful sister and the good person. Responsible, where am I accountable? I'm accountable for undervaluing and underloving myself. I did not sue my sister. I was passive. I was afraid. I betrayed myself by not valuing myself enough and being passive. What harm did I cause? Well, I caused her emotional harm, I guess. I gossiped about her and I spoke badly of her to everyone. What harm did I cause others? Well, I badmouthed her to my son, and my son doesn't like her, and I'm afraid that it was because of all the ugly things I said about her. I wanted everyone to dislike her. List my character defects: fears, people pleasing, undervaluing myself, underloving myself, too passive, too wimpy. Right? Why do I hold on to this resentment? I hold on to this resentment so I can be the victim of her greed instead of looking within myself and taking responsibility for my part, passiveness. And my real role is that, my perceived role was that I was an undervalued sister and I was a betrayed sister. And the truth is, I betrayed myself. I undervalued myself. And I was the one that was passive. And I am not accepting that the outcome was just as it was supposed to happen. And I played a large part in this outcome because I was so passive and undervalued myself.
And how does that sit with you?
I think that's pretty honest. That seems right to me. That sounds right.
Okay. And do you feel like you can let the resentment go?
That's funny because today, just my sister films everything that she does, any trip she takes, anything that she does. And today on Facebook, she had somebody film herself taking a dancing lesson with her husband and her dog watching as they were dancing. And I became enraged. I was so angry. I said to my husband, I can't believe this. I'm furious. I cannot let this go.
Okay, so here's my suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
You probably got to the bottom of this resentment, but there's clearly a bigger resentment towards the sister that you have to unpack.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you're having a reaction like that from seeing something on Facebook that she did that really has no meaning to you, it only has meaning to her, and it struck you that hard. There's
I was
something
enraged. I was enraged. She's just like my mother. Just like my mother. She is so much like my mother. Yeah.
Well, there might be a dual resentment there that you want to do separately, your mother and your sister. But, especially with a twin sister, there's going to be a lot of competitiveness and
All my life.
can come with the territory. But listening to you still speak about her, the resentment that you presented seems you've come to terms with it. You could want to blame her, but you kind of screwed yourself when you didn't stand up for yourself and you didn't try to make things, go differently.
That's right.
You're going to have to put that behind you because it's a done deal. But you're still having resentment towards your sister that's causing you rage.
Yes, it is.
Just having a moment of, she's such a weirdo kind of feeling, you could do that. But you're talking about rage. Rage is way up there on the resentment list.
Yeah. I
So
just,
you're going to want to sit with that rage and figure out what the real rage is when you get again to the bottom. Is we're always trying to come to the top of our best selves, but we're working on all that crap that's at the bottom because we get stuck in it and we can't move out of it unless we get rid of it. So
well, you think I'll ever be able to see it and get rid of it? I don't know.
100% yes.
No.
100%. Absolutely. Why not? Why not?
I thought that this was it. I'm really angry with myself. I'm really not angry with her, and she didn't really undervalue me. I undervalued myself. And
Exactly.
I thought that was kind of, the bottom. But I do still have the anger. Everything she does just bothers me so
You
much.
know, if she was in your presence and she stubbed your toe and you felt a little angry, that would make sense. But you didn't even have an interaction with her and you had such intense rage. I would say take a good long look at that because you don't want to live with rage in your body.
I don't. I don't want
It doesn't mean you're going to come out of this and say, okay, I no longer feel rage toward my sister, but I don't really feel like loving and kind either. That's okay. Get to neutral. You
Well,
know, if
I haven't.
you can't get way up here, at least get to neutral.
I have been saying the prayer. I
Good.
have been saying the prayer every day, and but I still feel the rage.
Yeah. The prayer's 30 days.
I know.
For some of the tougher ones, it can go longer than 30 days. You keep going until you feel like, oh, this feels like it lifted.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
So keep it going because it's only affecting you.
Oh, I know.
It has no effect on her.
And the thing that I hate about her, and it's my mother too, she's a show off. She just has to show the world how wonderful she is. And I know that I probably hate that in myself, but that's what bothers me, that she's such a show off.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate that in myself, I'm sure. I'm sure that's part of it.
Yep. So your next task, I would do it before you do your fair even. Get it out of the way. Get that
Mhm.
resentment.
Okay,
Yeah.
do it again.
Have you ever done a resentment on her before?
Oh yes, I have many times. Many,
Okay. There's more to be done.
okay.
We all have one or two people usually in our lives that have that kind of effect on us.
Yeah.
And it comes with a big list of different resentments. And we think if we get through one or two, we're good. They're bigger than that. They're not the one or two resentment people.
Okay.
So, not everyone's going to be like that. And you just gotta do the next step with her. Because your goal is to be at peace.
It is. It is.
You don't, you can't walk around feeling enraged every time you see her Facebook page.
And yes, I understand that. And I really don't want to feel this rage, and I don't want to be so affected by it. And I'm so willing to do the work because I really don't want to feel this towards her anymore. I really.
And think about how important it is for you to be detached from her. And then also think about how attached and in there you really are.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
So it's that opposite thing. We pray for that opposite behavior. And until you feel it, you're going to have to fake it till you make it.
Okay.
When those that anger or that rage comes up, you try to bring it down a few levels. You say a little prayer for her right then and there. Say the prayer.
I will.
Instead of going into that rage, go into the prayer. Just replace it until you actually feel like you've moved it.
Well, I used to I used to just lash out at her. I used to just criticize her and lash out at her. I was sarcastic. I was nasty. I don't do that anymore, but I do still feel the rage inside.
Good, because that didn't do any good either. It only hurts you.
No, it didn't. She didn't know what I was talking about.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, keep going, Carol. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks so much.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Oops. Hey, thanks, Lisa. Thank you. Is it Carol? So you guys probably know more about this than I do, and I'm sure there's not a crosstalk opportunity here, but you said something I don't understand. You said because it's a done deal, and so nobody's talking about well asking for half of the inheritance. And I just just to help my brain understand why is it a done deal and what so I can let it go. Thanks, pass.
So, based on what Carol has told me, the opportunity to speak up and have the inheritance be something different has come and gone.
Oh,
That's why it's a done deal. She didn't take the initiative or feel maybe that she even deserved to speak up and say, hey, you know what? I'm the one that did this. I'm the one, not my sister. Carol wasn't there yet. She hadn't arrived at that place in her own psyche where she felt like she had the courage maybe, or even the permission to speak up and say, hey, wait a minute. This is my thing. I did this. I need compensation, or I need recognition. So unfortunately, Carol, whether it was because of her resentments or maybe a lot of it is because of some fear, she didn't speak up in time. And now that window has closed and the inheritance has been passed on in another direction. I mean, yeah, at any time, Carol, you could hire an attorney and he could try to get the money away from them. But usually that's so much harder than contesting it in the beginning. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my younger sister passed away 3 years ago. So
It's kind of that part of it's done. So don't lose sleep over it.
right.
That's what I meant by it's done. There's nothing more Carol can do. So she really needs to give it to her high power, let it go, right, about it, whatever it takes. But that opportunity, that window closed.
Right.
It's a big, hard lesson, but
Exactly.
it's what it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Dee Dee. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I wanted to see if I could run through one
Sure.
to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
So I have another institution, and so I'm just I didn't do the prayer, but I did the writing. So when I resented YouTube, and so number two is for cutting my views and restricting my money. And so for number one, who I am is I'm very creative and I'm the best YouTuber to ever grace the platform. And so what my fear is that I will never ever make money off of my channel.
Okay.
So my pride is others should see that YouTube is treating me as a partner instead of treating me like a piece of shit. Um, I'm afraid others will actually see YouTube not continuing to not let me be great.
All right. Let me stop you there, Mark.
Go ahead.
We phrase that in the positive instead of the negative.
The I am afraid.
When you said that, others should see YouTube treating me as, and you said something about that it's never going to happen or they're never going to see it type of thing.
Yeah.
So put it because we want it to be a positive outlook, a positive outcome. Others should see YouTube treating me as their favorite customer or their best contributor or their best video person, whatever the words are that you would use. Put it in that type of term.
Okay. All right. So others should see YouTube treating me as a valued partner.
Okay. Keep going. What else would you like them to do?
And pay me on a regular basis.
Okay. So paying you regularly. What makes you stand out on YouTube? that YouTube should be aware of, that they are clearly not, or they would treat you differently?
That my commentary in my niche is some of the best commentary there is.
There you go. Put that in there. The more specific we can be, the more successful this work is.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. I'm glad I did this so I can understand.
Yep.
Um, okay. So I want YouTube to treat me as a top YouTuber and to show my videos to millions.
Okay.
I'm afraid YouTube will continue to shadow ban me and block my greatness.
Perfect.
So my security, I need YouTube to recognize how great a content creator I am. I need this to be okay because I need to make more money off of YouTube.
All right.
I'm afraid YouTube will never recognize my greatness, and I will never make decent money on my content.
Okay, good.
I ex so I expect YouTube to give influencers equal opportunities to reach people. So I'm afraid I will continue to lose subs and only make a little bit of money on a daily basis.
Okay.
So let's see. YouTube, so gender relation, I expect, I guess the ideal YouTube launch to be hundreds of thousands of views every time.
Good.
So the ideal launch of a video.
Okay.
I'm afraid I will never be able to get thousands of views off of my videos on a regular launch again. I My channel, so Pocketbook, my channel, everything should work in my favor on YouTube on every single channel that I have.
Good.
I'm afraid that my financial situation as far as my content will never ever change. I don't know why I laughed, but yeah.
I get it.
So I don't know. I think the second page, should I go for the second page?
Yeah, did you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, self-seeking behavior. Um,
Wait a minute.
yeah,
What's your perceived role?
my perceived.
When feeling this resentment, I believe I am.
You mean at the top?
Yep.
Like I'm standing in front of my perceived role. Burning in flames.
All right. So you're out somewhere and there's a lot of people watching, and you want, with this resentment, you want people to see that you believe you have been or are from YouTube. What have they done? Are you misunderstood, betrayed, manipulated, undervalued? What words would you put in there to describe what you're feeling through what they've done to you?
Yeah, I say the same thing, like I'm a victim. They shadow ban me, they restrict. Yeah, so I guess of the list, probably abandoned or person or rejected friend, something like that.
Okay, so let's say rejected. You can put a victim, your talent is restricted, you feel rejected. It could be all those or any of those. So you could say I am through YouTube, I am a victim. My talent is restricted, and my videos have been rejected. So I am the victim of restricted and rejected videos, basically.
Okay.
So is the event true?
I think so.
Okay. So we'll put it's true. All right. So then we're not talking about the other person. We're talking about yourself. Number one, self-seeking. Where did you put?
I consume other people's videos. I gossip about YouTube. I stop making content. I miss my deadlines to my subscribers, and I let fear take over completely.
Okay.
For
Letting fear take over completely would not be self-seeking.
uh,
Self-seeking is more like you shut down, you try to control, you plan an escape route, something like that.
okay. Okay.
So would you put for number two, selfish thinking about myself, self-centered thoughts, motives, attitudes, when you feel this resentment?
I look down on those who make money.
Okay.
Number three, I tell myself I will be okay in my hatred of the platform.
Okay.
I divide my focus between YouTube and some other platforms. I give up on myself and I blame them that I gave up on myself.
Okay, so you're blank. Good.
Then fear, like I'm afraid of failure, and then I feel like there's no hope and no one will ever watch my videos.
Okay.
Um, then responsible, I kind of like I default to being lost, confused, and angry.
Okay.
And what harm did I cause this person? I wasn't really sure, but I think it kind of goes back to like I don't keep my word to the people who do follow me. So the people who do follow me, like I don't keep my word because
Okay.
I don't produce videos when I say I'm going to produce videos and don't keep my deadlines. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, what harm, if any, may I cause others? The same. I don't have anything, no serious damage. It's mostly being inconsistent,
Okay.
and probably actually, to be honest, kind of. It's. I can already see it's going to be the same shit over and over again. Like I'm really harming myself. I'm really, um, of anybody, but like with
Right.
this.
And it's great when people figure it out, but you still need to put the work in
All
because
right.
you've got to see all of the answers that you have, and you have to see how they all come together. And also, these answers go on for the rest of the steps. Like these fears that you're talking about can be used in your fear train, in your fear inventory.
Okay.
So it's important that even when you get the figuring it out, that you continue to fill it out the way you would if you hadn't figured it out.
No, I'm going to go through it. I'm just
Good.
noticing it because like
Yep.
it is like you say, it's going to be the same thing over and over.
Yep.
So I think my defects, that I know specifically false pride, under earning, sloth, avoidance. Um, why do I hold on to this resentment? I get to be right. I get to play the victim. Um, and then I got a little bit confused because I was like, I don't know how to let it go. Like I've done, I can't say how many inventories I've done on this resentment and over the last 4.5 years and just I've done many, many. And
Okay.
I'm still burning up in flames. So
All right. So you finished the last statement. I now realize I am.
Which one? My real role?
Yep, right at the bottom.
I have blocked my success by myself.
Okay.
Uh,
How do you feel about that? Do you agree with it?
yeah. I knew that what I should have done originally when I had a breakout video some years back, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And I'm facing the consequences of doing whatever I wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, just it's a little bit different words, but you came in thinking you were a victim of YouTube, but the real saboteur is you. You're the one that's sabotaging yourself.
Yes.
Good. So you are correct. You cannot get rid of it no matter what you do, which is why you have to do the prayer and you have to give it to your higher power. It's not something you can overcome on your own. It has to be given away. So we're not going to get to the bottom of these fourth columns and say, "Oh, I've got the formula now. I'm going to go out and do XYZ." It's never going to be that because we can't move it. If we could move it, we would have moved it. We've been suffering, we've been in pain, we've done multiple methods to try to move this shit. It's not going to happen because we can't. That's where our higher power comes in. So when you're stuck at the bottom of a resentment and you can't figure out why you can't get it to move, the biggest reason is because we're playing God instead of letting God do his job. So you need to step aside and say, you know what? Yeah, I do have this resentment. I 100% is myself. I see my part in it. And every day for the next 30 days, I'm going to pray to God to remove this resentment because it's not doing any good for me. In fact, it's holding me back. And I'm playing the victim role so well that I'm not doing the job I could be doing on the videos that I need to do. So you're it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've put yourself into this position so that at the end you can say, yeah, I failed. I was right. I knew I was going to. And that's not what you want. That's not how we want to live our lives. We don't want to be right. We want to be happy. And the way to happiness is to let this crap go because you can't do anything about it. You can't move it. 100% you would have by now. And we can call it different things and we can say, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And the bottom line is still the same. We have no control over it. We have awareness of it. And with that awareness, we take it to our higher power because now at least we know what the problem is. But we're not the solution. We're just the excavators. We're excavating it so that we, with our free will, can turn it over to the higher power that has the power to remove it. But you got to give consent. You got to say, my God, whatever you pray to, I can't do this, but you can. I'll do all the steps that are required on my end, but the rest, especially the outcome, I'm going to leave to you because I can't do it. I've tried. And I fail every single time. So I give it to my higher power. And I leave it there. And you do that for 30 days, 60 if you have to, 90, however many days it takes in a row, you offer it up to your higher power. Because every day that you're offering it up to your higher power, you're still getting up every morning and putting this resentment on. Just like you put your clothes on every day or your shoes. You're saying, I'm going to put my resentment on and do my day. I'm taking this resentment with me everywhere I go. Every time I look at YouTube, every time I open that app, I think about this resentment. And that's what has to change. You have to leave that resentment with your higher power. Whether it's through the prayer, some people use what's called a God box, which is a fantastic way to do it. But ultimately, when you come to that realization, I can't do this. I gotta go somewhere and see somebody or find something that can, because this isn't going to work. It's just never going to work for me. So get the prayer and really get that in there, and remind yourself when that comes up that you're resentful towards YouTube. No, Mark, you're not. You're resentful towards yourself. Talk to yourself. You're talking to yourself anyways. Start telling yourself the truth. You need the truth to overcome the lies. Without the truth, there's no comparison. Now you know the truth. It's not YouTube that's making you unsuccessful. It's yourself. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, so last year with her, I did my resentment work with these the column all the way to the column 4. Okay, so my question is this. I don't know if it's a question or I'm going to go over this video again because there was a lot in it. And so, I did do some work on fears, but as of late, there's been some other fears that have been coming up. And I can get the source of it is from abandonment issues from my past. I don't know what I'm asking a question or I'm still like mulling this. I guess maybe I'm answering my own question. Good. I have some work to do here in fears.
Yeah.
And okay, so there's the question. Did the fears ever really totally go away?
I can only speak for myself 100% in my life. I was literally housebound for 15 years, couldn't leave my home.
Oh, okay.
Completely. And that's a pretty extensive amount of fear. So yes, absolutely, because fears are not real.
No.
When you realize you only have 2 choices. You can be in your fear state of mind or you can be in your faith state of mind. It's a choice. It's all it is. So when you get up and you start working in your head about the fears, you have to switch it over and say, I'm going to work with the faith instead. I'm going to give the fear to my higher power because I can't change this world. I can't even change myself. How am I going to change anything else in this world?
Yeah.
So it comes up and you make a choice. Am I going down the road of fear or am I going down the road of faith? Where do I want to go?
And I heard that. That really struck me tonight. And here's the thing is that, again, I mean, I've done a lot of work with A Course in Miracles over the years.
Me too.
So and there's two
I know where you come from. Yes.
Okay, yeah, and I think you have too, because I think I read it. So there's the distinction of fear based on your ego, yes, and there is a space of God or love.
Exactly.
And I get it. And I really over the last year, after I've been in program for 28 years, and I believe in this work, and I believe in the Course in Miracles. And what do I want to say? It's in the last year, my relationship with my higher power has gotten even deeper. But you know what? Tonight I'm getting to see, I like what you said about it's fear or faith. And what I've been working on is improving and raising my consciousness to be in connection with my higher power. But I'm going to take a look at this because, the faith aspect of it, the depth of that.
You don't even have to raise your consciousness. You're already in contact with your higher power. You don't have to change anything. It's already there. See, that's something that people don't quite understand about higher power or God or the creator or whatever you want to call it. What you believe or think you see or think you say has no bearing on the fact that there's a higher power.
It's always there.
It's always there. It's what Bill said way back. God either is or God isn't. If God is, then it's everything. So how can there be any gaps if everything means everything? There's no gaps. There's no, well, when I'm further down the road with my own, thinking and changing, I'll be closer to God. There is no closer to God. You're already part of God.
Yes.
You're already there.
I'm not alone.
You're not alone. You can't be alone. We're all the same. We're all the same spark. So those are fearful thoughts that you're going to put in your fear train and you're going to get rid of.
Yeah.
And you
That
might,
was
you
a
might know
strong
why you
message.
have them.
That was a strong message I got when I was away on my trip in Egypt. Was I'm not alone. It was coming to me before that, and again, there's all this is coming together.
Absolutely.
And but I get okay. So thank you for what you said, because the reminder that I don't have to raise my consciousness because my higher power is here in every moment.
Absolutely.
And it's within me, and
If
it's
you
within
want
all
to,
of us.
if you want to raise something up within yourself and get to a higher level in your state of being,
Yeah.
you got to get rid of the fears. You're already doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
you have to do. Because that's the only thing that stands between you and your higher power is your fear. When the fear is removed and you have the faith, you now see what was already there. It
Yeah.
doesn't change outwardly. It changes inwardly.
Yeah.
It's your perception. Your glasses are tainted. You got to change your glasses.
Yeah. Again, that's
The
these
world
filters.
is still there. The world will still spin the way it has spun. But
Yeah.
you're going to put new glasses on and you're going to see this world in a different way, in a way that you feel love and joy and peace, because that's what the Holy Spirit brings. We, in our egos, bring this crap, the fear, the resentments, the anger, that whole list of all those things. That's where it's coming from, is our lack of knowledge that it's already here. It's present.
So I've got all the handouts that you sent, and and again, I'll go over this video because I was trying to look at some of the handouts and I didn't quite get all the different steps. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist
That's okay.
at times, but okay. So all right, I'm going to do some work here because there is something at the core right now that I know is coming to the surface. To be healed, and so this has been great, and I really appreciate the faith aspect.
Yeah, the faith
connection.
It's huge, and like I said, whatever your faith of whatever that is that you've come to conclusion, whatever your God is, whatever word you use, it's already there. You just haven't allowed yourself to experience it. Yeah. It's like if you were standing on the edge of the ocean, you can see the ocean, you can hear the ocean, you might even smell the ocean. But when you put your feet in that water, you experience the ocean.
So I probably have experienced moments of it in my life, but there's still,
you wouldn't have come all this way if you hadn't.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. I really appreciate what you shared tonight, what you're sharing right now, and I'm going to, for myself, ego or God, or ego or faith, and I'm not alone. It doesn't really put a lot of pieces together for me. So I'll do some work here, and also with my step guide too. So
yeah, and if you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll try to clear it up for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you, everybody, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, Kristen.
Mute here. Yeah, I really appreciate what you guys have been talking about. I've also been a student of the Course in Miracles for a long time, and I guess the thing that's always helped me is that idea. The Course teaches so much about that. Everything, we give meaning to everything.
Right.
Everything is essentially neutral, and it was such a concept. It just blew me away. What do you mean? I thought there was it's good, bad, right, wrong. This is the way it is, And it so made me question the idea of that everything is a human construct. You know what I mean? And that we get this programming from such a young age. And, as far as that, what I learned so much is that I can see the world. It's like two people can look at the same situation and you can see it through the eyes of love or fear. Because of course it's basically, that's the way it is. It's either love or it's fear. When I'm in love, I'm in, basically compassion, kindness, openness, connection, you know what I mean? And when I'm in fear, I'm in this judgment, I'm in separation, I'm in defensiveness. And it was so amazing, because I think it's Herb always says, all of us are asleep, dreaming we're awake, that we're so asleep because all we know is our programming. And we believe that to be reality. And so I just find myself over these years of studying the course and then being in, program for all these years, that it's just this process of being awake and going, oh, there's that programming again. That's my default mode.
Yep.
And then, and it's hard when we get squeezed because, those times when I know for me, one of my biggest is these health issues that I have, that I can so quickly get into that fear mode. And I have to, it's like that pause. God's in the pause, to say, whoa, 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 where are you? What's the voices? What's the meaning you're giving? What's the story? And I remember that Herb used to say, I don't want to hear story. I don't want to hear story, And it's true though, because we have this story in our head and I'm like, well, who says, where does this come from?
And it's
Right?
usually distorted. Yeah, we have distorted views. We're delusional, distorted, we're all those things.
Well, and it's
until
like
we clear up. I mean, we're all of us are obviously clearing up. That's what we're doing. That's the purpose of this work, is we're clearing up. We're waking up. We don't want to be asleep in our own lives. We don't want to get to our grave and be like, hey, what have I done? I did nothing. We want to be as alive as we possibly can be. We've been given the gift of life, but we're not really using it properly. We're just fearfully blowing it away. And,
well, and it's
we can be in
discernment.
the problem or we can be in the solution. It's like,
Right.
With your health issues. If you focus on the health issues, you're going to feel more of it. If you focus on your faith that, okay, this too shall pass, it is going to pass because you're doing something different.
Well,
the
right.
outside world might not change,
Right.
but what goes on inside you is going to be different.
Well, right.
You're going to feel different.
And that's
the goal.
Sure. And I think, that's the hard part with an illness. I mean, I have a progressive disease. I mean, it's not going to get better. And just coming to that acceptance that, again, like you said, it's like, where do I put my attention? And it takes so much awareness and discipline. And I remember I used to hate that word, but it really is this idea of mind training.
Yes.
And, as the more and more that I can see that these thoughts don't serve me, and I used to feel kind of like, almost like it was a moral thing, like I shouldn't feel this way or I shouldn't think this way. And I realized that, those thoughts they're valid. It's almost like, they call doing the spiritual bypass, going like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be positive and I should be gratitude. I mean, it's okay to feel the feelings, but it's then what do I do with them? And I think fear is a normal response. But then I have to ask myself, well, how is this fear working for me? I mean, granted, fear is important so we don't do things like run in front of our car and, get hit. But it's like if fear becomes this thing that it overtakes me to where it immobilizes me, you know what I mean? And I ruminate about it so I don't have anything left in my consciousness for other things.
Exactly.
And it doesn't serve me. And that's when I ask higher power, to please help me see this, and more than anything, sometimes I can't see it differently, I'm not there. But can I say right now, I'm breathing and I have a pulse and I'm okay. You know what I mean? And to bring it to the present so simply.
Well, Eckhart Tolle says that. He says, in this very moment, right now, everything is okay.
Right.
And it's true.
Right.
And you can go from moment to moment that way. You can get a week from now, and in that moment, you'll say, in this moment, I'm okay. I've been in severe crises, and I'm like, but I'm okay.
Exactly.
There is stuff going around. The world is happening. There's all kinds of crap. But me internally, myself, I'm okay. The world might not be, but I can be okay through all of this. It's a choice. It's changing your mind.
Yeah.
Because we get stuck on fear. And if you were born in the 50s, 60s, maybe even the early 70s, guilt was a huge thing back then. Everything was guilt.
Sure.
I mean, it was crazy. So we have to overcome that too, because that's part of it's in our genetics. It's been brainwashed into us. You're supposed to feel guilty. No, we're not.
Right.
Never.
Well, and I think one of the spiritual teachers once said that, fear or worry is a poor use of the imagination. And I really love that because it's like, well, gee, why can't I use my imagination to make a positive story, right? But we have, that negativity bias that it just makes it so that, I'm worried about, like, I'm going traveling, or, for the holidays coming up. And it's amazing how quickly I get it. Well, this might happen and this might happen, and it's all these bad things, rather than,
So you're not in your
why am I fantasizing about all this great, having this daydream, like it's going to be perfect and we're all going to get along. And,
right.
And it's crazy that, why is it that we're so negative, right? We tend to be that way. And I think you're right. It's just the way we're programmed.
And you've got to jump in and you've got to reprogram.
Right.
You've got to make it different in your head. You've got to make the choice. Okay, this is not how I want to experience this. I want to go on an event with family, and stuff could happen, but I'm going to focus on what I want to happen, because whatever energy you put into it, even if it's a little tiny bit, it gives it a spark. It gives it a life.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're getting into our head and we're coming up with these ideas that are just ideas, and most of them are crazy, when we think about it more than just a few seconds, we're now giving it a life of its own.
Right.
So we have to stop giving it energy and give our energy to something else, anything else. But hopefully, at least your higher power. Put your head there. Get in there and say, okay, this is going on, and this is more than I want to try to even think about handling. I'm going to focus on my faith and what I believe my creator is capable of. Well, my particular creator created this whole entire universe. So my creator can do just about anything. So I don't get into those little small events where I'm going, oh, what can my creator? Well, look at what my creator's already done. The possibilities to me are endless. They are, there's no end. And it's showing up. Turn your TV on. Look at how much we've evolved just in the last 100 years. The things that we can do. Oh my God, imagine the next 100 years from now. I can't even. The possibility, everything's possible. If you can think it, it's possible. So you gotta think about your thoughts. Not the fleeting ones, but the ones that you dwell on, and you realize you're not thinking about what's going on in the now, because you're so caught up in that one particular thought that you grabbed onto for some reason, and in your mind you're running with it. You're giving it energy. It's like a hamster in a hamster wheel. Sooner or later that hamster gets out and it runs amok. So we got to watch the hamster wheel, and we got to watch what goes on inside it. Even with an illness like what you're experiencing, you got to watch what you tell yourself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because your brain listens to everything you say, and it doesn't have the capacity for truth or false, true or false. It just says, she says illness, brain says, okay, illness. So we try to put different things in our brain. And can we change the illness? We don't know, do we?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
somebody might have said to you, this is permanent, it's going to be this way, you have no hope. That's their opinion. I don't even take that. I don't even know. My opinion is, I'm going to at least try. I'm going to focus on the quality of my life instead of the propensity of this illness that's taking over my life. I'm going to switch focus. And it might not change the illness, but it will change the day that I have.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because it sucks to have a day where you're thinking solely about your health when it's in a negative state.
Well,
you
the
can't
although you talk a lot about that, as far as that, illnesses, because we think and believe in. I've always been the opposite. I mean, when I got sick, I'm like, forget it, I'm fine. I push, and this has been going on for 10 or 15 years, and I was just convinced that I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. And
but were you convinced, or were you in denial? Because there's a difference.
No, I wasn't into denial, not at all. Because I'm a nurse. I mean, I'm a clinical person, and I know that what I have. But I mean, I guess I was one of those people that I'm so stubborn. I never take no for an answer, and I just really believe that all of these positive things that I was doing in my life, very holistically, that things were going to get better. I think the hardest thing for me, as Herb always says, that we have to accept reality.
That's right.
And sometimes reality, the laws of nature are harsh. I mean, they are, and they're not personal. And, but it's kind of accepting, okay, so if this is the way it is, how do I then again not let fear and not let grief and all the things that go along with it, to take me over? And what for me, it's been service. I sponsor in 2 programs, I do a lot of service and outreach and but I'm just so grateful for the 12-step program and the stuff that I've learned from Herb for sure, because it really helped me in the way that I love his kind of spirituality and stuff, because it helped me incorporate stuff like Course in Miracles and looking at things metaphysically, and even taking Buddhism, with there's so much about mindfulness, and it's kind of been this conglomeration,
Yeah.
and that's why I guess I tell anybody who's newer that's in this room that hasn't maybe been in the program a really long time, that more will be revealed. You know what I mean? The big book says, we know only a little, that more will be revealed. And I think that's so true, that it's just this lifelong process that is long. I always tell my sponsees, we just show up for Earth School every day with this open heart and open mind, and we're going to continue to learn. But all I need to do is pray for the little willingness every day to show up for class. And I have to be patient, because it doesn't happen in my time. I want it yesterday, and it takes a long time. But really appreciate, Lisa, all of the teachers that are willing to be out there that can help us continue to incorporate this, at a higher level into
Right.
our,
Right. It starts at this level, and it just, when you really start grasping the concepts, it flows, and your life, it changes dramatically.
right.
It's a dramatic change. You go from like being on the planet to being one with the planet. You're no longer a visitor. You're one with everything. It's just a phenomenal experience, and it's there. It's not like it's some special thing that only special people can have. It's there, readily available for everybody, if you just take the time to switch from your fear view to your faith view on every element that you come in contact with in a day. You stop and you say, I can be afraid of this, or I can have faith that it's going to be this. Because we're choosing anyways. And sometimes we choose wrong, but we choose again. Because we are human. And maybe we even just hear it wrong. I thought he said to do this, and I did that, and it didn't work, so now I'm doing it a different way.
Well, the beauty of living mindfully in the moment. I always say to myself that every moment is a new moment for the rest of my life. Because really what happened even 5 minutes ago is over. There's nothing I can do about it. So
Exactly.
hanging guilt and shame and all that stuff, it's like, okay, I'm awake. I woke up, I've been in the trance for the last hour. And so now I can say, okay, I want to live according to my principles and get right back on track again. And that saved me. I mean, it really did, because I'm in OA. And it was like every time I made a mistake with food, it would be like, oh my God, you're a failure. And I just start this whole shame guilt spiral and fear. And now I'm so much better at saying, oh, you made a poor choice. Okay. What'd you learn from it? And then let it go and you move on.
Exactly.
And it's so much of just being in the moment and like looking
and thinking about what you're saying, instead of saying you're a poor choice, it's I made a poor choice.
Exactly.
Not I'm the poor choice. It doesn't reflect on me. It's just a choice I made. And maybe it's not even poor. It's just a choice. Right. I chose this.
Or it was unhelpful.
For whatever reason.
Exactly. Right. But not having to be, buried down in guilt and shame. Yeah.
The guilt thing will kill you faster than any other emotion, I believe. Yeah. Because when we feel guilt, the brain says punishment.
Right.
So if we're feeling guilt, we know that something's coming, because we're in that belief system that if you experience guilt, you have to be punished. You did something wrong. So that's the biggest problem with guilt. It invites punishment. That's when guilt gets scary. Because if we're believing the guilt and we're experiencing it and feeling it, the next thing we're going to feel is the punishment for whatever we think we're guilty of doing. So don't ever guilt yourself. Even in the OA program, if you eat something wrong, you've swallowed it, it's gone, let it be gone.
Right.
There's no reason to belittle any part of what happened. And it doesn't change what you'll do in the future, because people are like, oh, well, if I don't do that, I'll do it again. Well, you're going to do it again anyways, probably, because you're human. But guilting yourself is not going to get you anywhere, but worse for the wear, because guilt is the invitation to punishment. 100%. Look what they do in the criminal system. If you're deemed guilty, you go to prison. So, that's what we do to ourselves. We were taught that. We knew as children, when we did something and we felt guilty, we were punished. We know that. It's the train tracks are already in our brain. So leave the guilt every time it comes up. You are too worthy to have guilt. You've experienced too much in this lifetime, come this far, this long, to feel any sense of guilt about anything that you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's just all learning. It's the only way we learn, right? We make choices, and it's like, how does it work for you?
Believing. I can tell you this till I'm blue in the face, but if you don't believe it, go ahead. It doesn't matter. You have to believe that you're worthy, that you don't need to feel guilt. You need to believe that at your core.
But that
I'm enough. I'm good enough. I'm lovable. God created me perfectly, which he did. What do I have to be guilty about? Well, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
But as we know, those voices speak loudest and first, right? And so it takes time to, again, constantly see those voices and to challenge them and to say, no.
Let me catch you right there. Because see, now you're already doing a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're saying, but those voices, we have guilt and they're stronger and we have to work on them. You don't have to have guilt.
No, I'm not saying you have to own it. I'm just saying the old programming. I mean, that's what we're recovering from. I mean, really, when they look at the levels, in step one, the thing about the mind is, I would say, most of what we work on this recovery program with. I mean, once you get rid of the physical part, right? I mean, it's really the spiritual and the emotional part in our thinking.
It's the only real part, yeah.
It's so ingrained in us. Yes. It's like learning a new language. It takes time. It takes practice.
But it can also happen in a moment.
Yeah, I mean,
in a moment, I got on an airplane and flew somewhere. In an actual moment, I can pinpoint that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did I did up until that moment in the 40 years prior that I couldn't do? What happened in that moment? What happened in that moment was that it was a succession of very faithful moments.
Right.
That just kept carrying me to the next faithful moment. There was never one particular moment. It wasn't like, well, when that airplane door opened, I knew, or when I clicked my seatbelt, none of that. What happened was a succession of faithful moments. Because when you're in fear and you're in guilt, you're not in faith. You're not building that wall, that foundation that's going to carry you in those moments, like getting on a plane after 40 years. But it wasn't a moment. It was every step I took in faith. From the moment I packed that suitcase and put it in my car, every single step I did with faith. A very conscious level of I'm in faith. I kept telling myself, I'm in faith. In fact, when I was over there, I got a tattoo because I wanted to have it completely tattooed on my body that I was in faith. That's how in awe I was of the process.
That's great.
Because I was willing to take faith to that level. I had never been willing before.
Sure.
And that means that if I got to a turn or something went wrong, and a lot of things went wrong, weird things, the airport caught on fire when I was there. I mean, all kinds of weird shit happens. But my faith never faltered. So my trip never felt anything but wonderful, even with all the things going on around. It wasn't that. It was the faith. It was that choice. And I knew if I left the faith behind, I'd be standing in another country going, oh my God, what have I done? I got to get out of here. This is terrible. What have I done? I'm out of control. So I stayed in my faith. I knew where to stay.
Well, thanks so much, Lisa. I know it's getting late and actually got to get going myself, but
Yeah, you guys, I will see you all next week. And if you, like I said, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email or whatever, or send me your sheet and tell me, take a look at it. Does it make sense? And I'll get back to you as fast as I can.
great.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for staying. I know it got late.
All right. Take care.
Sometimes that happens.
Good night.